Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. This is a guitar amp that a friend of mine gave me and wants me to rebuild. So this already looks like it's been rebuilt, and there's some pretty typical just screws, and this is definitely not the original case for this amp, but this amp sounds very nice. It has a really good tone and it sounds very nice. So I'm going to take this all apart, and he is also a tree trimmer, so the wood that I'm going to be using, all the maple, is wood that he brought me about 1.5 or 2 years ago, and I've milled it up and I've just been having it drying, and I've used this maple in other projects as well. But I'm going to use that wood that he brought me to make this and do something different and make this a really nice amp for my friend. So let's get started. Alright, let's see what kind of book match we got here after cutting them in half. Well, that's cool. This way. Wow, that's beautiful. It'll be one side, this will be one side. Wow, that is really, really pretty for book match. Get them lined up there. Wow, that's cool. I like that piece up there. This is neat. Book matching is always beautiful. So after lining up the faces of these and giving them a little quick sanding to get some of the rough parts of the bandsaw off, these are beautifully book matched. These are absolutely beautifully book matched. So now I'm going to cut them to make the sides, and then this part will be the top and the bottom. Going to be doing the inlays on this just by using the miter saw to cut a little slit in it instead of cutting all the way through it and then gluing it back together. Because this is book matched, it'll be almost impossible to keep the faces and the grain lined up exactly. So this is how I'm going to do it for this project. Okay, so after cutting that, made a bunch of these strips. Now I've got African Wenge, I've got Paduke, I've got Yellow Heart, I've got Purple Heart. I've got a bunch of these little strips that I just ripped on the bandsaw. So what I'm going to do now is take these strips and I'm going to glue them down into here. And then I'm going to cut and glue, cut and glue, cut and glue, all at different random angles and directions. So it's gonna be pretty wild, but it's also very like an artistic feel to it. So I'm interested to see where this goes. Alright, so here's my own home custom made router bit right here. So, and this is something new. I've never tried this before, so let's see how this works. Like, that worked out pretty good. Now I'll glue a piece in there. Alright, well, this is quite the gamble because I am not even sure if this is going to work, and it better work because I already cut it. Nice. Ha! That worked. Oh, that's cool. Alright. I just gotta trim it off and do the other one. Okay, so now I've got all the inlays done. It's all sanded down flush. So, and this is cut now. So now what I'm gonna do is take some of these black walnut pieces here and edge band each one of these all the way around on this before I start cutting the top or the bottom yet, because I still have some ideas on how I want to do that. So this will be next. Okay, so I just quickly cut these pieces out. I don't think I need to show every single thing that I do on camera. This is pretty apparent here, but these are the pieces here that are going to fit around these. I'm going to do both of these. I'm going to go ahead and just glue these up here real quick. The hardest one was this this angle here, which was 33.4 degrees. That's a really weird angle there. This was 11.25 degree cut here because this is 22.5. So anyway, everything else meets up. So I'm gonna go ahead and glue this together on camera or off camera, both sides, and then we'll come back to the next step. Well, I just opened up the old one here, and it's time to start taking everything apart, get all the electronics out. Doesn't get any more simple than that right there. Speaker's in good shape. Nice. It's actually a paint, not rust. Good. Alright, so after taking the amp apart and knowing a little bit more of the construction on what I'm into here, I need to glue up the bottom. This is the next part here, so let's cut a couple of little strips here. This is the only bottom part I have to glue up here. This should be relatively simple. The top is not ready to glue up because I think I'm going to do a little design on the top, but I am not 100% sure yet. I'm still debating it. I'm kind of doing a design as I go thing here, so. Nice. Now just trim these off here with a handsaw, and then I'll sand this down flush, and then the bottom is ready. Alright, so here's the top. Now, I did the same, just kind of cut glue pattern as I did for the sides. And this is going to be the back, and this is going to be the front. And the reason why this is a little bit thicker is because I have to trim off that angle for that cut in the front. So that's what this is going to be. It's just, this is what's going to be in the front. So, and this is the same thickness as all the rest, so it should line up just perfectly with the rest of them. And then what I'll do is with this one is I will take the table saw, or maybe I'll do it by hand with a hand plane, and just trim off that front angle until it's flush, and that will be done after I glue it all up together, which I'm not sure which part of this process is going to be next. I have to keep staring at it and to try to figure out which part is next, because I haven't built anything like this before to actually know which part is next. So this is an interesting project for me to do. So I'm not showing everything on camera because I think you guys pretty much get the gist of how I'm building this thing. It's just a lot of cut and glue. It's the same thing I did with the rolling pin and with the woven cutting boards, is it's just cut and glue. That's pretty much what it all is here. So I'm going to keep continuing to do that. The next part I still have to figure out, but I'm getting closer on this project to getting to where I need to glue it all up together. So anyway, here we go. One more glue up. Alright, so the joint on this is going to be a spline joint. This is the bottom, this is the top piece here, but this is the bottom of the top piece. I cut up a bunch of little pieces here that are going to go inside of this. I'm going to go from black walnut piece to black walnut piece to make the spline joint here, and then I'll get the other pieces, and I'm going to be cutting it out with the router here. So this is going to be on every piece, and the spline joint should be nice and strong for any kind of vibrations that a guitar amp will put out. So you know, I got the dust collector here. Here we go. Okay, so now all I need to do is cut these out to go to the length here, and then the other part will fit right into here. So I'm going to keep working on these. Alright, so because I went from the top of the other one, I'm going to do the side of this, so that way they both meet up. And I'm just going from black walnut to black walnut, so that way it meets up with the top piece. I'm going to do the same thing for the bottom on all the sides. Ironically, that's right at the bottom of the black walnut. Okay, so what I've done here is I've marked out where the piece of plywood is going to go for the speaker that holds the speaker. Now I have a piece of leftover trim from the flag cases that I make, and I cut it down a little bit, so that's going to go here on top of the piece of plywood, and then the head of the amp is going to sit here on top of this. So now I know where to route this out. I'm going to use the same kind of joint that I'm doing on the rest of these, except this is going to be on 3 sides because this will get glued to the top of the piece of plywood to create a little bit of a separation from the speaker and the amp head. So that's what I'm going to do right now, is go ahead and route this out. Alright, so there's one. I'm going to do the bottom and the other side. No sense in reinventing the wheel, because I know the speaker fits in this. This is a piece of 3/4 inch plywood, so the speaker's going to be set back a little bit more than it was with this 1/4 inch piece, but it's going to be much more solid and to take the vibrations of, you know, a speaker playing, you know, when you're playing music. So anyway, I'm going to mark this, and then I'm going to cut this out with a jigsaw, and I got my holes here. So just go ahead Mark this jigsaw. Cut this out. And this is use the same holes. There we go. And I'll clean up this edge here just with the sanding attachment on the drill press. Alright, so now I'm going to glue this onto the speaker panel cut out. So get this done real quick. I had to check about 4 times, make sure this was the right side, because I can't go back after this and redo this, any of these cuts. Okay, here comes the hardest glue up that I've ever done, because I have to glue everything together all at once because of these double spline joints. So this is going to be an extremely difficult glue up for me to do, actually for anybody to do, because it all has to be done all at once. So wish me luck. Here we go. So after taking the clamps off, this came out really nice. So all I have to do is a little bit of sanding, clean up from some of the clamp marks. But other than that, I have got to sand this down and do all the finish sanding, and then I can start putting the finish on. And then I have to paint this black first to kind of get this to blend in, because this is going to get a cover here so it hides the speaker and also keeps the dust off the speaker as well. So that'll go right back behind here, and that will be a fabric, a black fabric. So that'll be the next step, is to just sand all this down and get it ready for the finish and paint that black. Alright, so made it to this point. It's all sanded down, ready to go. It's glued together. So now comes the first coat. And with Padauk, I have mainly, I'm going to use a sprayed finish on this. Because I know with Padauk, it just seems to just wipe all over the place. All the dust, doesn't matter how many times you wipe it down, it seems to get dirty. So anyway, here goes the first coat. I've been waiting for this. Here we go. That is gorgeous. That really turned out nice. Wow, that's pretty. Wow. So I'll put a couple more coats of this on here, and then I'll put polishing wax, furniture-based polishing wax on there, and then I'll start putting everything else together. Alright, as some of you may know, I'm a huge believer in upcycling. So what I'm going to do here is I'm upcycling an old pair of slacks of mine. So this is the fabric from that. So I'm going to staple this here on the inside of the slacks, or of the speaker cabinet here. So it doesn't have to be 100% perfect. And you'll notice, or you'll see why it doesn't need to be perfect here shortly. And that should do it. Nice. Nice and tight. Good. So, there's that part, and then I'll move on to the next part of putting the speaker back on. All I tried to do was just dry fit this, the head into here, and but I made this box so tight that I can't get this back out. So this is pretty much just in here forever now. This head won't come out at all. So this is just in here, and getting it, had pushed it down, scratched the hell out of the sides in here, but that's the least worries because there needs to be like a little plate on here out of wood that just holds this in. But this is never coming out. This is stuck in here for good. So anyway, with the head on there, I mean, this looks pretty nice. So this looks real nice. So if I drop this down here, it's a nice fit. So that's real sharp. Then I have one more little piece that's going to go right over this. There's going to be a chrome piece that goes over the top of this. So these holes, you won't even see these holes. So anyway, almost done. This is an antique cover here, so it's not 100% in high shape, but did clean it up a lot, so it's in better shape than what it was. So this is going to get put on over the speaker here. So there's a lot of little screws that go on this thing, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. That looks beautiful. That is really, really pretty now for an amp. That chrome piece really polishes it off. Okay, I thought I was almost done, but then I realized I hadn't put the handle on yet. So this, I'm going to move this up forward because I hate carrying a guitar amp, and it's, if you put it in the center, all the weight here is in the front, so the whole amp leans when you're carrying it. So by virtue of how much it weighs, if I go 3 inches off from the front, right there, to the center line, then it will be balanced when you pick it up, and it won't tilt. So it should be flat. So that's what I'm gonna do. And I'm using a dry erase marker so I can take this off later. This will come right off. Because it's on top of the finish, it'll just come right off. So I'll mark that there, there and there. See, 14 1/4, so be 7 1/8, and go 2, 10 1/8, 7 1/8, and 1, 2, 3, 4 1/8. Okay, 2 spots right there. There and there. Take my finger and that'll wipe right off. Okay, I gotta drill the holes. Alright, let's put this handle on here. I use some shoe polish to kind of buff this up a little bit, make it better. So that goes there. This, put in there. I need to tighten those up a little bit, but oh yeah, perfectly balanced. So there's no lean to the amp, but it just comes straight up. Nice, perfect, exactly what I wanted.